I remember years ago when we were upstairs.
We started this
We
packet.
did this distance yourself from falsehood.
Yes, do you remember? I remember that.
We had that package.
So this is the
you
second
mailed
half of that
something,
package.
you mailed something.
The first half of the packet is distance yourself from falsehood, whereas the second half,
Class been going 6 years.
2011.
So it's 6 years. I'm right.
You're right.
It's 6 years. What an amazing class.
Oh, percent.
Really.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Die.
He agrees with you.
Die.
He breathed that cake in.
You're kidding me, he inhaled it.
Give him some more cake?
Sure.
He'll eat a little bit and the rest of it. Oh, you're going to be his best friend.
He could eat the whole thing. Half of it will be on the floor, but he could still do it. HaShamayim used to be the same. HaShamayim used to be the same way.
And now?
He doesn't eat a thing. Like there literally are days where he just doesn't want to eat.
Really?
Yeah, I
And you
remember
know what? Don't let him eat.
He doesn't eat candy at school?
when he was younger, we took him to the doctor, and the doctor looks at my wife and says, "Stop being a Jewish mother. If he doesn't want to eat, he won't eat, and if he wants to eat, trust me, he'll let you know."
That's right.
No kid in a normal household starves.
Right.
No, that's his Benjamin's household. No, it's true.
I want to read to you from the Torah first. The Torah says in Dvarim, in the book of Dvarim, in chapter 24. Chapter 24, it says, Ki kach ish isha uva'ala. If a man marries a woman and is intimate with her, v'haya im lo timtza chen be'einav. No, wrong verse, guys. I apologize. The next one. The source here is wrong. It says chapter 24, but really it's chapter 25.
Oh.
If you look at the end of the paragraph, it says Sid Varim 24. It's really Sid
hold
Varim
on.
25.
Yes, got it.
Yep. Okay.
Which
It's not in
It's
the
on page 7.
source A4. A4 is on page. I don't think it has a page number. Got cut out, but it's
It's
source
7,
A4.
page 7.
See that?
8.
Deceiving
every
a liar.
section has a number.
Yes.
It's A4.
It's A4.
yes, you're bad.
What did you give him?
You put one of these in there.
Ki yeshvu achim yachdav. When brothers will dwell together. Umet echad mehem. And one of them passes away. I'm reading from the Torah, which is the
A4.
introduction to what we're going to read in here.
Page
It's,
7.
I'm not reading from source A4 because this is not in there yet.
Yeah, I understand that.
What do you mean when brothers dwell together? It used to be that immediate family lived in immediate
In one
proximity
house.
to one another. Could be one house, sometimes it was an estate. Very often in many countries, less in European countries, more in North African, Spanish, Portuguese, Middle Eastern countries, like a complex. Imagine a big rectangle or square, and in the middle is a shared common outdoor area where all the kids played, and you'd have all the families would have an apartment or a house all around, and this was like a family estate. It doesn't have to be that they live together, but it's talking about a very common way to live, which is families live together. So one of the brothers passes away, uven enlo, and he never had a child.
Oh, this is a hard one.
Lo tiyeh eshet hamet achutza liish zar. The wife of the deceased brother should not marry just some stranger
No.
from the street.
Where's the brother?
Yevama yavo alea ulkacha lo liisha veyibema. Her brother-in-law should come to her, take her to himself as a wife, and perform what is called yibum. I don't know what on earth a levirate marriage means. I don't know what that word means, but the bottom line is he remarries or marries for the first time his brother's.
If the brother isn't married.
Widow.
If the brother is already married, she can't marry somebody who's already married. Can she? You mean they
That
still
was-
believe in having many wives?
Actually, this is enough, mister. Oh. I don't know. The answer to your question is that in biblical times, a man can marry more than one wife. Also in current times, it could be done. So we don't do it.
Even now?
Sure.
Well, you know,
Who marries
But-
more than
But
one?
hang on.
Like,
If-
two wives?
A woman's married to a brother and her husband dies and the brother
Is married.
is married,
He could take a second
He
wife.
could take her as a second wife and have two wives.
and is it legal?
Israel?
No.
Oh,
Okay, we're talking
legal,
about-
not that legal. No, it's illegal here and it's illegal in Israel. It's not
Okay.
legal anywhere.
But in biblical times, it was
In biblical times,
Acceptable.
urban times, and in current times. What does acceptable mean? Acceptable means that it's able to be done. It doesn't mean that it's a good idea. You don't have one story in the Tanakh where somebody was married to more than one wife and it worked out for the good.
well. Wait a minute. You said it's able to be done. If it's illegal, it's not able to be done.
No, it's able. You're able to have slaves in Jewish law. It doesn't mean you're supposed to have slaves in Jewish law. Some things in the Torah are there to regulate things that already exist in the world. And not everything in the Torah is an obligation just because it's mentioned that way.
Wasn't like but 1,000 years ago, I forget who it was. Gershon.
Rabbeinu Gershon.
Yeah. Okay. So he outlawed it, but that's in the Ashkenaz communities. But the Sephardic communities, it's still permitted, right?
Rabbeinu Gershom outlawed a number of things aside from just marrying another wife.
I thought he had to throw a slipper at her or something.
Wait, we didn't get there.
Okay.
For 1,000 years. Those 1,000 years are up.
But it was extended now.
Okay, it was extended. It wasn't extended. Bottom line is, it's not actual Jewish law. That's something that the Jewish community has accepted upon themselves.
Okay. The Jewish community, but the Ashkenaz community, right? Sephardic community, no, it's still allowed.
Correct. The community did not officially accept it upon themselves, though some did. There are instances where there have been attempts by the Sephardic chief rabbis in Israel to still allow such a situation to happen, such as this case of Yibum, but it doesn't actually work out that way in law.
I was under the impression that it still does happen.
Not in any country that you or I ever visited. In Israel, you can't marry more than one. In fact, in Israel, they've instituted into the Sephardic Tubah that you will not take another woman aside from your wife. Meaning, they already agree at marriage not to do such a thing. Could be that in my Ketubah it says the same thing. Melanie, do you mind checking my bookcase for a second? It's probably not there. I don't think the book is there.
This one's the same thing, but he says.
Yeah, no, that's not. Okay.
There's not a purple book there.
So
Okay.
there's a ceremony that has to be done.
Right.
Chalitza.
So right now, this mitzvah of Yibum is one of the mitzvot, which is a man had a wife, he didn't have any children, his brother can still provide his brother, meaning the brother of the deceased can still provide the deceased brother, the opportunity to have a child who would bear the last name of his father.
It's a way of kind of carrying on the
The
family.
legacy, correct. Vaya bechor asher teled yakum al shem achiv hamet. The firstborn that is born, if she can have children, should continue the name of his dead brother. V'lo yimachesh shmo misrael, so his name will not be erased from the Jewish people. V'im lo yechpotz ha'ish lakachat et yivimto. If a person doesn't have any desire to marry his sister-in-law, he didn't like her in the first place, so why should he start liking her now? Ve'alta yivimto hasha'ara el askenim. So what he should do is he should go up. His sister-in-law should go up to the elders. Ve'amra me'en yivami la'akim la'achiv shem b'Yisrael. My brother-in-law refuses. He refuses. Oh my. Sorry, guys. My wife goes on summer vacation in a week and a half from now.
She's going to New York?
No, she's just
Yeah,
not
she's
going to be
not-
working.
She's gonna be here.
Although maybe she was going to study in New York
She
again.
doesn't have to do that.
I
this
think
summer.
she's finished.
Yeah, she's finished with that.
Oh, so she's not going to study. Okay.
No, she doesn't have to go back.
So she goes up to the elders in the gate and says, my brother-in-law refuses to give a name for his brother in Israel. Lo avaya b'mi. And he didn't consent to do a yibum with me. The Karulo Ziknei Iro, the elders of the city call him, they summon him, V'dibru alav, and they speak to him. V'amar, and he still stands up, V'amar, and he says, Lo chafatzti lekachta, I don't want to take her. I'm not interested in marrying her. V'nigsha yivimto elav, Lena Eskenim, and his sister-in-law stands up before him in front of the elders. V'chaltza na'alo me'al raglo, and she takes his shoe off. V'yalka b'fanav, and she spits in front of him.
Yes.
Ve'anta, and she answers ve'amar, and says, Kacha ya'aseh la'ish, this is what should be done to a man, asher lo yivneh et bet achiv, who refuses to rebuild the house of his brother. V'nikra shmo b'Yisrael, and his name is called among the Jewish people Bet Chalutz Hanal, the house of the man whose shoe was taken off.
It happened in my family.
You did?
Yes.
Well,
In
I don't
Cape
understand
Town.
what's happening. I'm
In
missing
South
something
Africa.
here. It's like beyond my comprehension.
Just your comprehension?
So
Her brother-in-law refused to marry her
Yeah.
so that they could have the name to pass down.
Yeah.
Okay. So she went and she went in front of the court. Am I right in what I'm saying? Because I remember this as a little
in front of
girl.
the court, the Beth
We
Din.
all went to the West End, and he took his shoe off and he gave
He
it
takes
to
his
her.
shoe off.
She took his shoe off. He
She
let
took
her
the brother-in-law's shoe off.
and
It's
she
like
held
a
it in her
ceremony.
hand. She spat at him, and she then threw the shoe.
Can I have, Tamar, can I send you on a
Sure.
book errand?
So is that
In that shelf that's between that stroller and the green stroller,
so?
on top of the orange books, there's a 3-volume set of big books. Can you bring me the one all the way on the left? Yes, that one, perfect. On the left. The one all the way on the left.
So it sounds to me like
It
that's
should say
the
Gimel on the
rabbinic
spine.
way of allowing
Perfect.
her to respond
Yeah?
to being shamed.
Yeah.
Psychologically, it's a smart thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Let her, in other words, she's in front of a Bet Din. The brother-in-law
Doesn't want her.
shamed her by saying, I don't want you. Rejects her.
Right.
Yeah, but
She
it's
might
very
not
hard.
want him.
She might not
I know,
want
but
him.
we're talking about a world where women don't
Right,
count.
right,
okay?
that's true.
So,
No, without maybe.
so
no.
she's shamed because in the
Right,
community
right,
at large,
Right, she's nothing
she-
alone because
she's
she lost her
rejected,
husband.
right?
And
And
she
now
has
he doesn't
nothing.
want her, so she's
True,
shamed
right.
and rejected.
Right.
And so the Bet Din, instead of her going out and being a bitch and everything else for the rest of her life in the community, allows her to
to-
take off his shoe, spit
Spit
at
on it.
him, throw it at him,
Right.
Nobody threw
God
a
knows
shoe,
what
guys. Nobody
else.
threw a shoe over here.
and get
Well,
it
kind
out.
of saying,
Suppose
yeah,
symbolically
they
get rid
say-
of the
exactly.
shame. Get rid of the shame.
Right, saying like you're nothing.
Nice
I don't
try.
need you.
Yeah, but if you actually think about it, that is really hard. I mean, come on, why would your brother-in-law want to marry you?
Well, you were part of the big clan, right?
Okay, but that
And-
doesn't mean that you hanker for somebody else.
Well, not necessarily, right? So that's
Exact-
why it has that option. But maybe in a lot of times, you know, the brother said, "Yeah, I'll take care of you. You can be my wife, and you can be
There was a
remain,
movie about that,
remain
something
part of
There was a
our
movie-
compound,
or
so to
something.
speak."
Do you remember there was a movie at the Jewish Film Festival about it?
Didn't see it.
But what she might have had already kids. I mean,
No, it only happens with somebody who doesn't have children. If you have children, it doesn't happen.
Well, back in the day, if a woman that didn't have children, you were a non-entity.
Correct.
So if you
And
were
to go back
married,
to your
if you were
father's
married, you
house.
at least had a little bit of respectability. But the rest of the community still thought, okay, she's not 100% and have children. But then you lose your husband, and
then
now a
you
childless
really like,
woman is a
Is nothing.
And going back to your father's house is also probably, yeah, it's shameful.
You can't go back. No,
So
it
let's
happens
read
in
you a
our
little- There's a
family.
book called the Sefer HaChinuch, the Book of Education. Sefer HaChinuch was written by an anonymous medieval sage, probably from the students of the Rambam, Maimonides. Some have that it was written by Rabbi Yonatan Halevy. There are a number of different opinions of who wrote this book. But essentially what he does, he takes all the 613 mitzvot and he breaks it down. What is the mitzvah? What are the rules of the mitzvah? When does it apply? Does it apply in the time of the temple? And when there's no temple in Israel, outside of Israel? Does it apply to men? Does it apply to women, to children, to adults, and the whole situation? And then he always tries to give, and it's hard because not all mitzvot are logically comprehensible, he tries to give some kind of understanding, perhaps, as to the spirit of the law, why it is that this law exists the way it does. He writes the following. I just want to read to you what he says. This is Mishoshe mitzvah. From the roots of this mitzvah, לפי שאישה אחר שנישאת לאיש, הרי היא כאחד מאיבריו. When a woman marries a man, she literally becomes part of him, part of his body, physically. I mean, these two people, like we say at the wedding, they join not just in spirit, but in body. They are now a husband and a wife that are connected. This is where we get that idea from Adam Rishon, who his wife was also literally a part of his body. Vaish hazeh shemet belo banim. And this man who's going to die now without sons, shiu chelek mimenu, there will be a part of him, as a remembrance of him, ulemalot mekomo ba'olam le'avodat baron, to replace him in this world, to serve Hashem. Vod en zecher lo ba'olam hagufani, and there's no one else in this world that is part of him. Zulati zot ha'isha, she etzem me'atzma v'basar mibsaro. There's only person left on earth who has any physical part of this man is her. She is his other half. And so you now have a half of a person. One half passed away, the other half is here. And this person didn't have any children, so there's no continuation of those two souls that are in this world serving Hashem. And therefore it's almost like this entire limb of the Jewish people was cut off. And therefore Hashem, in His kindness, tries to fulfill this man's legacy by uniting her with her brother-in-law. Why? Who is a brother to his... What are brothers to each other? Are they related to each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
They come from the same body, so to speak. Shehu gam ken kechatzi b'saro. He's also like half of his brother. So essentially it says this person is a half of his brother and this woman is a half of her husband, and they're both half of the same person. And if we unite these two people together, so now we're essentially almost recreating the man who had left this world.
It doesn't mean that she's going to have a child with him, because maybe she can't. And
So
so,
is there room
what
to
the hell?
dispute what's written? I mean,
In which terms?
Well,
She can also not want to marry him.
Correct.
You can't marry somebody against your will. What happens here, he says, there's a Kabbalistic idea behind this, but he says he already exempts himself from having to talk about Kabbalistic matters in this book. And then he says, so what's the story with the spitting in the shoe? What is going on here? And he tells us an insight into biblical law that we're probably not familiar with because we don't have slaves. You see, if you see a person you don't like,
Do you see he's
And you go-
standing again?
and you spit at somebody, not on them, but in front of them, what does that show to them?
Disrespect.
Like utter
Shame.
disrespect. So it's so disrespectful that it's not even like we don't even encourage spitting when you're not in front of somebody. Like you're just in the street spitting. There was a world perhaps where people spat in public and spittoons and all
Yeah,
kinds of things
that's
like that. But in Jewish law, we always keep your spit to yourself. It's not the kind of thing you do. The biggest type of disgrace is to spit at somebody, and the second, think about the Middle Eastern world still has this.
Throwing the shoe.
Is anything to do with shoes. And not just throwing shoes, anything to do with shoes. Shoes are the most disrespectful thing that you own. Now in the Western world you probably don't get this.
in
But
Israel too.
I don't know. Israel's made up of many different cultures, not just one. There's no homogenous culture.
So in the Muslim world, a shoe is
You take off your
considered-
shoes before you come into your house. Why would you bring such an ugly thing into your house? It's not just in the Muslim world.
I thought it was just to protect, keep the floors clean.
No, you would never.
Dirt and-
The same reason you would never put your shoes next to your bed, especially not next to the head of the bed. You probably don't know this either, right?
No.
Because why would you put such an ugly thing next to your head when you sleep? The idea of putting your foot up on the couch has less to do with cleanliness and more to do like you're disrespecting my house by putting your shoes on it. A lot of things that we as people living in the West don't pick up on. Because essentially at this point in time, she can't marry anybody else, right?
Yeah,
She's
that's
stuck.
fine.
She's in the situation where she can only marry her brother-in-law. She's waiting on him to consent to marry. And he says this is almost like a certain type of servitude. Like she's stuck. She owes him something. He has some kind of power over her. And he's not being fair towards her in either remarrying her or releasing her. So the ultimate act of releasing herself from the oppression of her brother-in-law is to do the two most disgraceful things that you can do. Remove his shoe and spit on it. Spit in front of him. The reason is she's telling him, you to me are a nobody. I don't have to respect you any more than I respect any other person on the street. I am freeing myself through this ceremony. I mean, you might have had to be my husband, or you might have had to be my brother-in-law that I'm waiting on permission to get married to somebody else. But now, you're it. You've decided to disgrace your family, your brother. I'm spitting. I'm taking off your shoe. I'm spitting. You get out of my life. I don't need to know you anymore. This is the ultimate act of freedom. It's in fact something what a slave would do if they were freeing themselves. Because until now you were under someone else's rule. And now you're freeing yourself. The first thing you do is to show them, look, I'm also a human being. And this is essentially what the Torah is trying to get her to do here. To recognize that she doesn't owe him anything. She's not obligated in anything towards him. And that's a story that's going on here. So with this understanding in mind, we can now approach the text that I wanted to read from here, because really why we do Chalitza, why we do Yibum, it's not so relevant to what it is that we're going to discuss here. The question here is in fact an entirely different one. Thank you to everyone who got me books or attempted to. And
Do they still do that? So that ceremony here?
Chalitza,
Yes,
They do it in Israel.
they do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Chalitza is still done because Yibum is not done. I don't know that it's correct thing not to have Yibum done, but I'm not going to.
So if I was an Orthodox woman in Israel, I'm trying to understand this. I can't grasp my mind around this. I'm stuck. So if I'm an Orthodox woman in Israel,
Yes.
I have no children, my husband dies. He has a brother. His brother is married, has 4 children. His brother doesn't want to marry me.
He can't marry you.
Can't marry me, fine.
It's illegal.
But we still have to do this ceremony?
I presume that that's what would be done.
Yes.
And so we go to the Bet Din, I take off my shoe,
His shoe.
No, his shoe.
I throw it at him and I
No,
spit
what is the throwing of the shoe? Avril
Okay.
invented the throwing of the shoe.
Okay, so
I
I take
saw
off
it.
his shoe, I drop it on the floor, whatever, and I spit at him.
Spit out the
And
shoe.
now,
Now
What
what
is
is
that?
that? How has my
You
life
spit in front
changed
of you
That
can
mean-
marry anybody in the world that you want.
in an Orthodox court?
Yeah, which in Israel you don't really have a choice.
Because somewhere, no, they have civilian.
No, there's no civil marriage in Israel.
You go out of
I just had a
Israel.
whole conversation with Carmela about
There's
this. She
no-
says there's civil courts.
She
People
doesn't know
are
what she's
getting
talking
married.
about.
It's
No
not
civ-
true.
Really?
No.
Israel has refused to
And
separate
I'll
their
call her as soon as I
church
leave
and
here.
state.
Tell her she's wrong.
You can get married civilly outside of Israel
I know,
and
some people
have
go to
that marriage.
Cyprus and stuff.
Yes,
but she-
that's
But in
right.
Israel
We
there
just
is no system. Decline me wrong.
Oh.
You can't
You
get
need to
married.
go-
You need to go out,
Yes.
or you can live together without getting married. And there's a term in Israeli law called yiduim l'tzibur. You are known to the public. It's kind of like what happens
Yes.
here in California.
Correct.
If a couple lives together for long enough,
6 months,
It's
common law
common law
marriage.
marriage.
But what about
like understand how this works. When we convert somebody in America that the Israeli rabbinate doesn't recognize, and then they want to get married, so they'll take their civil marriage from this country, and that will allow them to be married in Israel because their religious marriage that we did wouldn't count for anything. You understand?
now,
Politics at its best.
if people are of different religions, if one is a Jew and one is something else,
Then they wouldn't have to go through the ceremony.
so that but they can get legally married.
Not in Israel.
Not in Israel.
No.
Outside.
In fact, you should know that to their credit, the Ashkenazi chief rabbis, time immemorial, have been trying to abolish the monopoly of religion on marriage in Israel. They want people to be able to get married in a civil marriage. The reason is they have an interest in this. What happens to the people who were forced into an Orthodox marriage in Israel because they don't have a choice? But then they want to get divorced, and now this wife is stuck with some guy who won't give her a gift.
That's right.
And 20 years she could be stuck with the guy. 30 years she could be stuck with the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
The Ashkenazi rabbi's whole solution is don't let anyone get married if they're not the kind of person who's going to give a get at them. Just let them get civilly married. What do you care how people get married? It's been the Sephardic chief rabbis who've been making the problems. They refuse to let go of the monopoly on. They want everyone to be married in a religious ceremony. More often than not, 9 out of 10 couples that approach me in San Diego to marry them, go find another rabbi. How do I promise? They don't promise me they're going to give a get afterwards.
Can't you sign something that says at the end of if the marriage
Not in the United
ends,
States of America.
that
There
you
is
must
a
give
prenuptial
get?
agreement.
Yes.
And we discussed this here.
Yes, we did.
And all that you can do is a person agrees to be fined a certain amount of money every day until they give a get. Which is not unanimous among all the courts of law that such a thing is accepted. But in California, you can't force someone. If I would go over to you or to you and say, you have to go to court and perform a Christian ceremony, that would be violating my freedom of religion in this country. And so what if you were born Jewish? He doesn't want to give a get. You can't force, in American law, you cannot force someone to do something religious. Even if his wife is suffering because of it. And so Israel, this has always been a fight. So no, there's no civil marriage in Israel. It doesn't exist.
No.
They will recognize civil marriages abroad, but not in Israel.
Yes.
So we were saying, the chalitza, this ceremony will be done.
They do that in Israel? If that happens, they make chalitza?
Shamat al chalitza ba'aretz?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So they do it in Israel.
That's interesting.
They do it in South Africa. Still.
It's not very common,
Right.
but
You have to imagine that all the circumstances have to match up. You have to have a situation in which there was a person who was married and they had a husband. They didn't have any children,
Right.
and he died. And then there was another brother who was. Now, not in every family do you have another brother. It could be another sister. And you have a brother who is able to be married to somebody else. The situation doesn't happen all that often. But the story here is now what happens. So I'm going to skip down to the bottom of the page because I already gave you the introduction much longer than what it said here. The Gemara cites the following incident. And there was an incident with a certain woman who fell for yibum consideration, meaning she was supposed to be married to a yavam. Yavam is the noun, the man. An incident with a certain woman, before a yavam who was inappropriate for her. What does it mean inappropriate for her?
It wasn't good enough. She didn't want him.
You understand? Here it's not, in the Torah you find a situation where he doesn't want her. But here's a situation where she doesn't want him. Who knows? Her brother-in-law was a drug addict. She didn't want to, she was an upright, standing citizen. Why should she get married to him? Just because he's the brother. And they said to the Yavam, perform chalitza with her on the condition that she will give you 200 zuz. That's a significant sum of money.
I've got to. I've got 200
It's in your
zuz
ketubah, I'm sure.
written on my ketubah.
The Yavam then performed
How much is the
chalitza.
zuz worth?
In this time, a significant amount of money.
Oh,
The Yavam
good.
then performed the chalitza,
I'm worth something.
but the Yevamah refused to give him. But the Yevamah refused to give him the money. So she refused to give him the. Is it an emergency? No, I'm giving a class. Is it something important? Okay. When I was in Israel, I had a rule that if you call me 3 times in a row, I won't answer your calls for a week. I'll answer your call the 3rd time. If it's important, I'll answer. But if it's not important, I'm not answering your calls for a week. The case came before Rabbi Chia, and he ruled the chalitza valid.
what's chalitza again?
Chalitza is the removal of the shoe. This whole ceremony of breaking off this.
I can't pick him up. He wants to be picked up, but I can't.
It's okay. So tell me, someone can bring it to me. So what happens is that essentially they're trying to trick this man into giving her a chalitza ceremony and freeing her, and then they don't pay him.
Oh, they have to pay him.
They don't have to pay him.
Oh, they
Rabbi
don't.
Chia said it's valid. So the Gemara cites another incident concerning a chalitza performed under false pretenses. The daughter of the father-in-law of Rav Papa. So Rav Papa had a wife. It's his wife's father's
Daughter.
So essentially this is his sister-in-law.
Yes.
It's a complicated way to say
Yes.
his sister-in-law.
Okay.
She fell for Yibum consideration before a Yavam who was inappropriate for her. The Yavam came before Abaye. And this is the story that happens. Rav Papa
So, can I just ask,
Sure.
who has to be paid? Why do they have to
This
why-
guy wasn't going to do Yibum. He was like, forget about it. I'm going to let her get stuck until she agrees to marry me. And so
they
how do we
wanna
do?
Pay him off.
Well, they want to pay him off. They promise to pay him off. He finally does the ceremony, and they don't pay him.
Uh-huh.
He's a crook. Why should we have to pay? Why should she have to pay you money? It's something you have to do. And they say, oh, but I did the ceremony under false pretense. I signed under duress. This wasn't true. You tricked me. Rabbi Chia says, no, it doesn't make a difference. You were in the wrong, not her. And so you can wrong a right with a wrong. You can right a wrong with another wrong. This is the whole question here is, can you, when the guy mugs you, do you have to tell him where all your money is? No, of course not. But you're lying. So I'm allowed to lie to the guy who's trying to mug me. If I make you so righteous that you have to tell the truth to everybody, even the person who's mugging you, then that's not righteousness anymore. The Gemara is trying to give a situation where doing something wrong is actually doing something right. Yeah.
Can a man not give his wife a get, and can he then remarry?
A man cannot not give his wife a get. In the olden days, we would beat a man like that in court until he would give a get. Can he remarry? It's a fantastic question. Depends where he's living. In today's world, he cannot remarry until he gives his wife a get.
Because
I'm aware.
yeah,
what
you
can
know
you do?
who I'm talking about. Yeah.
You have a Jewish community
Mhm.
that has destroyed the rabbinate. Not the chief rabbin, the rabbin. Has destroyed anything that rabbis ever stood for.
Mhm.
And then you have rabbis who destroyed the rest of the rabbinate because they're good for nothing crooks. And so then you expect the Beit Din to still have any power to help people out in such a situation. They can't. We've destroyed the whole system. So what is left? Who
Well,
has
we
that
also
kind of
don't live
authority?
in communities like that anymore. Today,
could-
somebody can not give a get and do just fine. But there was a time when they
We could though. See, it should be a situation in which all the rabbis in a town have a Beit Din that they agree on.
Correct.
And that it should be. And in a perfect world, yes.
It is.
And it should be a
but
situation.
you can always move. I mean, in
Well,
today's world,
it
you
should
can
be a
do-
situation in which when a Beit Din says this man is held in contempt of the Jewish community and we formally excommunicate him from the Jewish community until he releases his wife, it should be that he cannot step into any community anywhere in the globe and be accepted in that community. That's supposed to be the power of a Beit Din.
And
Yes.
then, and what if you're not from? If you don't care about?
So you're right. So you live in a situation in which
Right,
you're
you can do whatever you
you
like.
can do whatever you like. I'm aware of that.
But there were times when you couldn't survive because you needed to be part of a community to
I
have
question
a
then
job,
why
to
we're
do-
marrying.
to do-
Why do we marry everyone that comes in front of us with a kosher ceremony?
Right, that's-
Having a kosher wedding is not a right; it's a privilege. We've been towing this line for a long time in our Beit Midrash. These rabbis that will marry anybody that comes to them, it's not fair. It's not fair because you're not ensuring that at the end somebody's going to be responsible and finish this. It's such an honor to marry. It's not an honor to marry anybody. It's a responsibility. And if you don't think that you can live up to the responsibility of making sure that they'll get a get afterwards, then don't bother marrying people. I hope to never fall into such a situation. Who knows? We have to. Something in the system needs to be changed. The truth is that Abaye has a very complicated method in how they're going to promise him something, and he's not going to get what he was promised, and it's still going to be valid anyways. You should know this whole situation of Gittin. This is not as strong as a get. Chalitza is not a get. She's not married. She's just. It would be forbidden for her to marry somebody else, but not. She's not the same way that a married woman is not able to marry somebody else. Here we're trying to get her out using chalitza by almost seducing a guy or making him fall for something in order to let him do the ceremony. In the world of Gittin, in the olden days, we believe that, it's a dangerous topic to talk about because recently a whole bunch of rabbis got arrested for doing this in the East Coast. So I'm not endorsing this to be done today in the United States of America.
Yeah,
Don't
they're
get me
sitting in
wrong.
jail.
Don't get me wrong. But if we were in Talmudic times and a man would refuse to give his wife a get, and he would be summoned to the Beit Din, say, why you refuse to give your wife a get? And he says, I refuse to give my wife a get because I'm worried about my children and I think that they're in an abusive relationship with their mother and I want to get him out. I want to get them out. I want to ensure their safety before I give her a get. It's using a get for leverage, but at that point in time, a Beit Din would say, fine, you give your wife a get, we're going to take care of custody matters, we'll research this and figure out, there's a separate custody court, we'll figure this out in. But you have your obligation to give your wife a get, we've heard your concerns, we'll take care of them. There's a man who says, I don't want to give my wife a get because I know she wants to get remarried, I know she wants to move on with her life, and I just want to let her get stuck forever and ever and ever, just so she cries her eyes out until the day she dies. What the Beit Din does, they ask him once, twice, they take him to the back of the Beit Din, they have a big thug over there who beats him until he says he's willing to give his wife a get.
Correct. That's why they said
He doesn't have the right to use leverage over his wife in a rabbinic court of law. And so the rabbis asked the question, is that not the greatest form of signing a contract under duress? I was literally beaten to sign this contract. Maimonides rules that it's not under duress because he's a crook. And if I have to beat a crook in order so he can do something right, then that's what's going to happen, because he also deep down inside wants to do something that's right. But you're doing a wrong in order to make a right.
Yes.
So our rabbis say there are times where you right a wrong with another wrong. Now this is such a dangerous, slippery slope, because the line between this and running an organized mafia is so thin that there were already rabbis in Maimonides' times that didn't appreciate this approach. But this Gemara seems to fit in with the teachings of the Rambam, which is there are situations in which a person has control over another person and it's not fair. They're using it in an unfair fashion. And what other purpose does a court have if not to get involved and try to figure this out? We're supposed to have courts of law. They're supposed to create order. No, what is a court of law for? I recently had someone come talk to me. They're fighting with his spouse, and his spouse sent them an eviction notice from the house. You know, we live in a crazy world. I can't say it. It's a crazy world. And I'm not a lawyer, but the lawyers that he consulted with said, listen, if you call the police to somebody's house and you have an eviction notice on your husband or your wife, the police are going to come and say, listen, sir, you are owner of the house, she's an owner of the house, I'm not a judge. If you guys need to go to court, go to court. If it was breaking into your house and he doesn't own this house, fine, I can throw him out. Maybe. I don't know what it works anymore here. But if you two will live in this house and you're having some domestic dispute, it's not the police officer's job to get involved here. I can't get involved. I'm not a judge. I don't know the whole story. And they'll defer you to a court of law. The judge's job is to read into all the whole story, what's going on, who actually owns the house, what's the situation happening in the house, and to make a decision. But it's going to be unfair to one of the sides in that story. Someone there is going to be upset that they lost the house. But that's what the judge's job is. The judge's job is that sometimes you slice something down the middle, because that's the way you maintain a healthy society, by having a third party. And in a healthy society, it would be a non-corrupt third party, the third party that works really according to what is just and what is right and what is righteous, and not just what okay, you understand what I'm saying? And so the same thing with the Beit Din. A man is tormenting his wife because of a get. This guy is not giving his wife the chalitza ceremony.
How many of them are in Israel? Oh my God.
The Beit Din's job is to step in, to get involved, and to end this. And it could be here that in this point of our learning of the Talmud, at any cost, even if it's tricking him that he's going to get some fantastic sum of money and he's really not going to get anything, so what? That's what we do in order. Now, one problem you didn't solve. Once people know that the Beit Din can lie to them, I'm going to pay you X. Which guy is going to be the next one to believe oh no, they said they're going to pay me. Yeah, but remember Jim over there, he was promised to get paid also and nobody paid him. You deal with the whole other side of repercussions, which if you can't trust the Beit Din, they're not going to lie to you. Then I'm not going to trust them to do another chalitza. And it could be that harnessing this measure will actually cause more problems than it will solve. And God willing, we'll talk about that next week. I'm sorry that I have to run. I just really need to...